And so one could argue that even fiction filmmaking is documentary performance. So sometimes it's great to hear from other filmmakers, peers of mine, who have a respect for the documentary tradition because of its origins as the very beginning of filmmaking.
What particularly interests me about documentaries is that in fiction or in general, I mean, the world as it is now, everything seems to be more about the image rather than the world that we live in, the facts that surround us. And in documentary filmmaking, it's not so much about the image, but what you encounter during the production, which is something I really like. That takes me really to my last question as well. What kind of world do you think we live in today?
I think we live in a more dangerous world than previous generations. The world that we live in now actually scares me. Maybe because I'm a father and I have kids and I worry about a number of things. I worry about the economy. The economy is in the toilet. Human rights are in the toilet. I'm not sure there's more war now than there was before, but I think the level of overall hatred in the world has gone up a notch. And we're now living in an age of nuclear weapons and I don't know. I mean, I think I understand this planet a little bit, but I really don't. You know, I mean, I think I've won the lottery. The fact that I was born in Canada and I'm very privileged to what I have. But when I do travel, I get to see the reality of the real world. And when I go to India, I don't walk away from India with a real positive view of India, just because of the misery, of the poverty, of child labor. And India is pretty good compared to other countries. So the more I travel, the more I see things, and I really wonder if the world is getting better.
You know, the problems that you see on your travels, you know, like child labor, all of these things, what do you think, where does it come from? Is it self-made, homemade? What are your views on that? And if you had to do any prediction for the world over the next 10 years, that, you know, what would that be? Where would we be in 10 years?
Well, I think you have to look at where we be in 10 years. I mean, hopefully I'll be here. That's one prediction. I hope that I'm going to be here. But I just see that, you know, with dwindling natural resources and a growing population, that's the real problem we have now. Is we're going through a population explosion. The world, the doubling rate of population is happening in a much shorter period of time. We're now close to 7 billion people. They say we might be at 10 billion by 2030. Where are we going to get all this food? You know, there's also studies that say there'll be no more fish in the ocean by 2050. Yet a good percentage of the world depends on fish for food supply. So what are we going to eat? How many more forests we have to slash down to be able to breed cattle? And more importantly, the most important natural resource that we're starting to see a ripple effect in perhaps global conflicts is water. I mean, you know, we're lucky in Canada. You know, we got lots of water up here, but if you're in Mexico City, they're running out of water. If you're in Mumbai, they're running out of water. When I was in Mumbai last November, there was riots over water distribution and people were killed. So we're starting to see potential conflicts, and even between India and Pakistan, there's been a couple dams have been built on the Indian side of the border, which cuts the flow of a few key Pakistani rivers, and there's threats of nuclear war over that. So I see what I see in another 10 years. I see another shock and awe terrorist attack. That's coming.
You know, I've been wondering about that because I mean, at some point I'm thinking those terrorists can't be that smart, because the things I'm capable of thinking of, they should be able to think of as well, you know. And so if you can think of these attacks, I wonder why it takes them so long to do it. I'm certain there will be something else. But in terms of overpopulation, you know, now that I live in the Netherlands, which I think is the third or fourth most densely populated country in the world, I often wonder what that really causes all these problems in the developing world. Is it really just, you know, exploitation of the West towards the East? Because I see a lot of homemade issues there that we really can't solve from our end. And I worry about that a lot, because we have no way of influencing that really in the short term.
Well, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is, if you look at in the States, people are really upset about they're trying to push to buy American, to create American jobs. But you know what, the fact of the matter is, the United States of America, it's a Walmart society. They want everything really cheap. They want things as cheap as possible. And that's only made cheap by actually exporting jobs to China to create jeans, for example. At the same time, I mean, in China, they're happy to have those jobs, because if they don't have those jobs, what do they have? So in terms of blaming the West, it's kind of difficult. And I think you have to look at every single kind of nation state and its own cultural background to look at certain reasons. In India, for example, they have the caste system. So the caste system is unique to India, and that also creates a lot of, there's no social mobility for a good percentage of the population. And so, I mean, it depends country by country. But essentially, regarding the Netherlands, I mean, yeah, it's one of the most densely populated places, but I live there too, and it didn't feel that bad to me. Not like going to Bangladesh.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I often look out my window and I think, where the hell are all these people that they're talking about in those statistics? You know, but it is really one of the most densely populated places. I think after Bangladesh, it's the Netherlands.
For instance, where does everybody go on Sundays?
I have no clue. That's another question. I mean, that's a culture thing. Let's not go into Dutch culture. That might not be that exciting.
I remember being in the Netherlands, and there was like, I'd be like, where is everybody? Do they have an invisible cloak, or what's going on?
No, I've got no clue. But, you know, the world that we are, I mean, where do you think capitalism is going? What's happening there?
Well, I think in Canada, I mean, right now there's a couple things affecting Canada. Canada, for example, number one, is the largest trading partner with the United States of America. So we've taken a hit economically from America's mismanagement. But essentially, Canada is also not developing its knowledge economy as it should be. So there's been a loss of jobs here. The middle class is shrinking, the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. That seems to be a global trend as well. Whereas, you know, you think every year we move forward, it's 2010, you know, I mean, people should be making more money. You know, there should be, the middle class should be getting bigger, and poverty should be eradicated. But essentially, poverty is growing in Canada. And if you look at the northern population of Canada, if you look at the native Canadians, they live in absolute poverty. It's quite an embarrassment. It's actually, there's third world conditions in Canada. But I think that the real problem with Canada right now is it's got a conservative government which wants to export energy at all costs. So they're developing the Alberta oil sands, which has more, they think there's more oil produced in Alberta in the oil sands than in all of Saudi Arabia. So right now they're completely removing, there's an area, I think about 300 square kilometers, that they're removing all the topsoil, and they're just creating so much pollution. So Canada generally is actually used to have a really good reputation internationally for its environmental policies. Now it's one of the world's greatest polluters. Canadians pollute more on average than I think a lot of people on this planet. So we have to look at our carbon footprint. And also, I think the next big thing is, as water starts to become in demand, Canada's going to start exporting water from lakes, and so that's going to completely destroy ecosystems. So I think Canada is in a good position, but it has to do things on our environmental front, and secondly, it also has to do things on the human rights front. Canada has really gotten a black eye internationally for its handling of certain cases of human rights abuse, and as a Canadian, that really embarrasses me.